Good evening, class. Here's College Algebra Practice Test 1, Module 1, Chapter 2. That is equations and inequalities. Chapter 2, Equations and Inequalities, answer the following. Find the distance between the 2 points given as -5, -6, and 4, 2. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of the line segment that joins the two given points. Well, just reminding you of these formulas, the distance formula between the 2 points is the square root of x up to minus x of 1 quantity squared plus y sub 2 minus 1 quantity squared. And it simply uses Pythagorean theorem. If this one has coordinates x sub 1, y sub 1, this one has x sub 2, y sub 2. This distance is y sub 2 minus y sub 1, and this is x sub 2 minus x sub 1. By Pythagorean theorem, this is the case. And so we use the formula. So 4 minus -5 makes it 4 plus 5. Quantity squared plus 2 minus -6 or plus 6. This is 9 squared, which is 81. This is 8 squared, which is 64, resulting in 145. When we add them up, the square root of 145 is the answer. If they ask you for the exact answer, you leave it as such. If they want an approximation, you go with so many decimals. Okay. As far as the midpoint is concerned, the formula is just add up the coordinates, divide by 2. So the midpoint would be -5 and 4 divided by 2 for the x coordinate, -6 and 2 divided by 2 for the y coordinate. This gives us -1/2. This gives us -4/2, which is -2. And so these are the answers. A quick reminder of the proof of the midpoint formula. So this is in the middle of this line, and we want to show that the coordinates are as such. So this is between these two. That means this distance must be the same as this distance. That's the concept of a midpoint. So if we know this distance is the same as this distance, in other words, CD equals BD. So if we take line segment BC with the midpoint D, we can draw all of the dashed lines parallel to the coordinate axis. All vertical lines are parallel and all horizontal lines are parallel, meaning the following. So this one and this one are parallel to the y-axis. This one is parallel to the x-axis. It creates a small triangle and the large one. So if we call this ABC is the large one, and if we call this ECD is the small one, the two are similar figures because all angles are identical. This is 90 degrees, this is 90 degrees, and this is in common, therefore these two are the same, or you can say the sides are parallel. And so if this is the case, similar figures, remember, corresponding angles are equal, corresponding sides are in ratio. So we can write CD over BC is the same as CE over AC, as an example. Now, CD and BD are the same, therefore CD is half of BC. CD is half of BC. So this ratio is 1/2. So if you do the cross product, AC becomes 2CE. If AC equals 2 times CE, then these two must be the same. AE and EC must be the same. So that's a proof. Therefore, the coordinates of D are x equals the midpoint of AC, the average of the x coordinates of A and C, and y, midpoint of AB, the average of the y coordinate of A and B. So that's a quick proof. So those are the midpoint formulas. A man drove 10 miles directly east from his home, made a left turn at an intersection, and then traveled 5 miles north to his place of work. A, if a road was made directly from his home to his place of work, what would its distance be to the nearest tenth of a mile? B, if the road was made in the previous exercise, how much shorter would the man's one-way trip be every day? Anytime we have a word problem, we need to read it again and again, and also draw a setting to really understand that. So a man drove 10 miles directly east from his home. So here's the home, going east 10 miles. Going north 5 miles. North 5 miles. So 10 miles this way, 5 miles this way. So if a road was made directly from his home to his place of work, what would its distance be to the nearest tenth of a mile? This is the distance. We are looking for using Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. One side is 10, one side is 5. So 100 plus 25. So it's the square root of 125. We want this, the exact answer, by the way, this is 25 times 5, making it 5 square root of 5, but roughly 11.18034. And the second part says, if the road was made in the previous exercise, how much shorter would the man's one-way trip be every day? That's not the case. So the man has to travel 10 plus 5, 15 miles. However, if it was directly, then it would be only this much. So 10 plus 5 minus this number. This is the exact answer again, and roughly we end up with 3.8 miles. All right. Because we have the nearest tenth. Okay, everybody. All right. We want to solve this. And the best course of action is to multiply both sides by LCD, the least common denominator. And of course, this has to be factored out. This is simply x plus 1x minus 3. Again, we've discussed the factoring. So we're going to multiply by LCD, which is x plus 1 times x minus 3. And also x cannot be -1 here cannot be +3 here, the same here. So you have to exclude those values. At the end, if you find any of it, that would be an extraneous solution and it's out. So let's multiply by the LCD. When you do that, you multiply this part and x plus 1 goes away, you get 5 times x minus 3. You multiply this part, x minus 3 goes away, and you get 1 times x plus 1. And the right side, you just get -6. I hope you see if you multiply by LCD is the fastest and the easiest way to deal with that. We are almost done. 5x minus 15 plus x plus 1. 5x and x is 6x. Minus 14 goes to the other side, becomes positive. We end up with 8. So divide by 6. 8 over 6 becomes 4/3. Everybody's happy. We are done. Lines, slopes, and its interpretation. Here's a line. Here's the rise. Here's the run. The slope is defined as rise over run. You can say y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, or delta y over delta x. Known as the average rate of change of y with respect to x. That's the definition of a slope. If you look at this one, it has a positive slope. This has a negative slope. This is a vertical line, undefined slope. Horizontal line slope is 0. Reminding you what we have seen in previous courses. So HN, horizontal line, y equals b is a equation. Slope equals 0, y-intercept is 0. Vertical line, VL for short. X equals a, m is undefined, x intercept is at a0. When you want to write the form of a line, standard form, ax plus by equals c. Slope intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Point slope form of a line, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I hope everybody remembers those. We really need them. Two lines are considered parallel if they have equal slopes and different y-intercepts. M1 equals M2, B1 is not equal to B2. Two lines are perpendicular if their slopes are negative reciprocal of each other, meaning M sub 2 is -1 over M sub 1, or their product is -1, either way. So we want to answer and graph in a rectangular coordinate system and clearly show the intercepts. X equals -2. This is a vertical line, and x equals -2. That means -2 comma 0 is the x-intercept. Y equals 3 is a horizontal line, and 0, 3 is the y-intercept. Find the equation of a line containing these two pairs. You don't have to even work them out. Notice the x coordinate is being repeated. Therefore, x equals 4. On the other hand, in this example, 1 comma -7, 3 comma -7, the y coordinate is being repeated. You're dealing with a horizontal line, y equals -7. Find the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that passes through these 2 points, -3, 10, and 5, -6. Find the intercepts and graph. And I'm reminding you of everything we discussed. Finding the slope, different versions of lines and parallel lines versus perpendicular lines. So number one, we gotta find the slope using this formula. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So -6 minus 10 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. 5 minus -3. And that results in -16 over +8 or -2. That's the slope. We're going to use the point slope and use one of those pairs. It doesn't matter which one. So if I use this one, I get y minus 10 equals m -2 times x minus -3 or x plus 3. Now, if I use this pair, and I'm going to write it at top, I get y minus -6, which means +6 equals m -2 x minus 5. They don't look the same, but when you simplify them, they become the same. This is -2x minus 6. If you move that, it's +10, makes it -2x plus 4. And what you should do, because we use this pair, try it with this pair. If it's not the same, somehow we made a mistake. If I plug in 5, -2 times 5 makes it -10 plus 4 -6. So that works. We haven't made a mistake. And so we have the intercept 0, 4. Clearly, that's the y-intercept. And then if you set this equal to 0, x becomes 2. So 2, 0. So I hope everybody's okay with that. So all you have to do, here's 2, 0, here's 0, 4, and put them together. So those are the two pairs. Put them together. And notice this is one of the pairs. This is another one. 5 minus 6 is here. And -3, 10 is here. Find the equation of a line that is perpendicular to this one, 3y equals x minus 4, and passes through this pair, -2, 1. Find the intercepts and graph. Well, first and foremost, this one, we need to find the slope, which means I'm going to divide by 3. I get 1/3 x minus 4/3, and here's my slope. So I'm going to call it m sub 1. The slope for the given line is 1/3. If I wanted the parallel line to that, I would use the same slope. However, because it's perpendicular, the negative reciprocal of this makes m sub 2 equals -3. Okay, so parallel lines equal slopes, perpendicular lines, negative reciprocals. With that being the case, I'm going to use this one. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x sub 1, and I'm going to use this pair. So y minus 1 equals -3 times x minus -2 or x plus 2. And that results in -3x minus 6. Move this one, make it +1. And here's y equals -3x minus 5. Of course, if you put this pair, -2 gives you this. That means in the process, we didn't make a mistake. It doesn't say anything about this slope, okay? And so obviously, 0, -5 is the y-intercept. The x-intercept, you said this one equal to 0. So I quickly show you, if you put this one equal to 0, I hope you see that x becomes -5/3. Okay, so x becomes -5/3. But we are going to graph actually the setting. We're going to graph both of them. So for this one, if x is 0, okay, y is negative 4/3. If y is 0, this goes away, x becomes 4. So 0, negative 4/3, 4, 0. Those are the pairs, put them together. So this is the given line. And this line, we have those pairs, everybody. So 0, negative 5 is here. Negative 5/3, that means negative 1 and 2/3. So here's negative 2 is there's negative 1. It's between the two and closer to negative 2. And put them together. And here's the pair negative 2 comma 1 that was given. Anybody wants to read this question for us? Anybody feels like reading this question?
I can do it.
Excellent, thank you.
A retired woman has $50,000 to invest, but needs to make $6,000 a year from the interest to meet certain living expenses. One bond investment pays 15% annual interest. The rest of it she wants to put in a CD that pays 7%. If we let X be the amount the woman invests in the 15% bond, how much will she be able to invest in the CD? Set up and solve the equation for how much the woman should invest in each option to sustain a $6,000 annual return.
Excellent. So we are dealing with the word problem. Number one, one might say, okay, why not put everything in the 15%? There are always reasons such as taxation and so on. Secondly, you should always set up a table. So here's what happens. We have the investment. The first one is at 15%. The second one is at 7%. We put the amount here. We put the interest here. And so we said at some at 15%, some at 7%. So if we let X be the amount at 15% because they said so, that means we got to put the X here. So when we put the X here, we know that we need $6,000 and we know the total is 50,000. So this is the total goes here. This is the amount, the total amount of interest that we need. Now, how much goes here? If 50,000 is the total amount, and let's say we spend 10,000 here, so 40,000 is here. So 50,000 minus X goes here. Remember, they must add up to 50,000, so be careful with that. So I equals PRT, the amount of principal is X, the rate is 15% or 0.15, and T is, it's in 1 year. So let's just, this means T equals 1. So this gives us 0.15 times X, and this gives us 0.07 times 50,000 minus X. And the sum of these two must be 6,000. So I hope you see that this whole question is translated into this table. This table is giving us everything we need to know. So add up these two and it's equal to 6,000. The last column gives us the equation. So all we have to do, distribute. This is 0.15x. This is 7 times 5 is 35. One decimal cancels out 1 0. So we have 4 decimals. I want to make sure everybody understands what's happening. Again, reminding you of what you've seen in basic math. This has 4 zeros, and this has 2 decimals. So 4 minus 2, we have 2 zeros. So 3,500, okay? Minus 0.07x. These two combine into 0.08x, divide by 0.08, or you might write it as 8. This is 2500, and use a different color so you see what I'm doing here. I'm going to add 2 zeros here, okay? Because I moved the decimal to the right here. And now you can do the math, and you end up with 31,250, which means this much we put for X for the 15%. The rest of that, 50,000 minus 31,250, or 18,750, we put it at 7%. Let me look at one more example. Flora starts riding her bike at 20 miles per hour. After a while, she slows down to 12 miles per hour and maintains that speed for the rest of the trip. The whole trip of 70 miles takes her 4.5 hours. For what distance did she travel at 20 miles per hour? Again, you have to set up a table. You have to set up a table. So we have the rate time. Remember, this is a motion problem. D equals RT. D equals RT, everybody. R is the speed or rate, T is the time. So let's plug in everything that we have here. We start, and then after a while, and total. So we start with what? 20 miles per hour. That's our speed. That's our rate, 20 miles per hour. After a while, we're going to go to 12 miles per hour. After a while, we go with 12 miles per hour. And we go with the same speed. The whole trip is 70 miles distance. The total distance is 70 miles. And it takes 4.5 hours, the total of 4.5 hours here. So I hope you see how we fill up the table. And now we are going to define our variables. So the time we're going to use here, let's say it's X, Y, Z, T. Normally we go with T, but any variable will do the job. And what is the timing here? Remember, the total time is 4.5, so this is 4.5 minus T. D equals the product of these two. So over here, we cover 20 times T. Over here, we cover 12 times 4.5 minus T. And when we add these two, we should get 70. So 20T plus 12 times 4.5 minus T equals 70. I don't think it's possible to come up with that equation without really understanding the concept by setting up the table accordingly. So we distribute the 12, we get 12 times 4.5, which is 54, and this is minus 12T. Now, we can combine these two into 8T. We move the 54, make a negative, and the right side is 16. Divided by 2 makes it 2 hours. So this is true, everybody. Let's go back to the question. So that means we spent 2 hours here. We spent 2.5 hours here. What is the question? For what distance did she travel 20 miles per hour? So we want this one, 20 times 2, which makes it 40 miles. That's what we are looking for.